And while we're doing that, I'm happy to introduce the last speaker of the day, Stina Gardell from Sweden, producer, director, and founder of the company Mentorai Film. And as you said yesterday, you've now been over 20 years in the business. I believe a lot of things must have changed during those years, and we look forward to hearing your experiences from running your production company, distributing films, and how to reach an audience. So let's hope.
Are you still alive? Do you have any energy left?
Yay!
Are you sure, or do you need to take some water or something when they are fixing this? It's okay for me.
Well, let's get some exercise by giving Stina a warm welcome too and clapping our hands.
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to start, or should we wait? Well. I wait for a couple of minutes. I was just thinking that about the energy and the feelings in the room when everybody was speaking. It was a kind of a small kind of depression. I'm not sure if you feel the same, but my feeling was this is like it was in Sweden a couple of years ago when we all met on workshops, conferences, and we were so depressed, angry, disappointed. I had the feeling when I was sitting and listening to some of you, and we were talking, and then I thought maybe it's good that I am the last person, because maybe you need a fairy tale. Do you know what a fairy tale is? A happy story in the documentary film? Does that exist? We'll see what you say. I'm waiting, that's why I'm not. I can continue because I'm a restless person, so I don't like to stand and be quiet. I started my company 2005. I have been working as a director myself, starting with radio production, making radio documentaries. And then I couldn't survive as a radio producer. And then the boss at the Swedish radio, she told me, you should do TV. And when you do TV documentaries, you can make your radio documentaries as an hobby. Because she had the feeling that it existed documentary money in the TV world. So for a couple of years, I was working with television and making documentaries for the television. But after some time, I felt when it was broadcasted, it just disappeared. It was like it was locked down in a box at the Swedish television and never came to life again. So I thought I need to do something else. So I left the TV industry and I heard of something amazing called the documentary film. And I went to study at the university, and I met these wonderful documentary filmmakers, independent, out on different forums and festivals and all over. And after some time, I understood that we were all getting more and more depressed. We had so much problem, lack of money, lack of energy, lack of solidarity between ourselves. So I decided It was someone told me, you can't survive as a documentary film producer running your own company. It's impossible. Then I thought, maybe I should try that. To create a company and prove it's possible to survive as a documentary film producer. Because I am only producing feature docs, long films, very long films, for cinema. And I'm really not working with the TV broadcasters. I of course edit a version to the TV stations, but I really love making cinema film for the theatrical releases. I think it's great to look at a good film together with people. And as I told you before, I really like the meeting point, that you can sit together and look at a film. And the film I produce, I don't want to answer any questions. I want people to go home and talk. So I make complex stories, very often about women, not because I like women more than men's stories. It was because the women's stories wasn't told in Sweden. And in somehow, when you went to the financiers, they couldn't hear this is a good story if a woman presented it. But this is a long time ago, like 8 years ago. Now something has become different. I continue talking, or should I wait?
And this is, of course, the classical situation. All of us work in the film business, but there are always problems with the screenings. That's how it is.
Okay, I continue talking. So when I started my company in 2005, today I have made 17 films for the cinemas. Can't I just start to talk like what I wanted to say? Because I can talk about productions, I can talk about financing, I can talk about problems. But when you asked me to come, you wanted me to talk about distribution and how to reach the audience. So if you have any questions about productions or things or financing things, we can talk about that later. But actually, 2012, I would say, for me, everything began. It started 2012 when I read in one of the biggest Swedish newspaper a headline from one of our greatest film critics, Jeanette Jentele. The documentary film is dead on cinema. At that point, 4 years ago, they all had enough. At that time, I had 6 films already trying to get the audience, but the numbers coming to see the films we produced were like I think the middle number was 539 persons. Once, I think I had like 1,509. I mean, it was so few people coming to see the films at cinema. And the only distributor, Folkets Bio, that we talked about, that was producing only art house films, they were like shouting at you or were very angry when you came with another suggestion of, can you please take this film as well? Because there were so much documentary films that wanted to go to the cinema, but we only had one distributor. How is it going?
Fine, but we still need 1 moment.
Yep. It wasn't enough just to put, in the newspaper, to work this traditional way of how to, if you want people to go to the, to see the cinema and show up. And for me as a producer, as you were talking about, it's really frustrating. It's so frustrating. I was so frustrated because I knew somewhere there is, of course, an audience to the films we are making, because we're all making very good films. I think it's stupid to say there is no audience that wants to see a film at the cinema and to go out and say it's dead. I think the problem is that people don't know that our films exist. I think that is the biggest challenge for us, to be seen, that people understand that we really are making this film. I think the audience is there, and I think the audience wants to see the film. And then I created this film called this is my brain, it's a lot of clips. I'm so sorry for this. Okay, here we go. We will try to do this. Not now. Okay. This is. I have the feeling this is chaos. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, I made 6-7 films, as I told you, on cinema, and the audience didn't show up. And when I made this film, he thinks he's the best. I asked again, could you please distribute this film on the cinema, because I think it's great? And they say, no, now we can't continue all these documentary films in cinema, we have to stop. And I was asking everyone, and suddenly I realized that no one wanted to distribute the film. And then I thought, okay, I met a man, and he was telling me that cinema distributors in Sweden is not chains. Do you know what chains is? I thought it was like companies, but it's not. He told me it's human beings running cinemas. There exist more than 700 small cinemas in Sweden run by normal people. like you and me. And then I understood that if there exist human beings running cinemas, then I can call them. So I took my film and I made a DVD, and I called this man I met on a bar and asked him, could you please give me names and addresses to 50 good cinema owners in Sweden? And then I made 50 copies, and I wrote a very personal letter, and I say, I love this film. Could me and my director please come and show you the film? And after 2 months, I had a tour, you could say, a tournée with 64 cinemas in Sweden. So we were traveling around with this film, and of course this film wasn't a success when I financed it, but after visiting these 60 cinemas and we were holding these speeches, suddenly, for the first time in my life, I had some money in my pocket. Because we made a chair, I took 50% at the door, standing and taking directly the money, depending on how many that came. In some small places, maybe it was just 1 or 2 persons coming. In another places, it was like 100 or 150 persons. But every time I asked them, after they had seen the film, I asked them, have you ever before seen a documentary film? And most, it was like 1 or 2 persons that said yes. And the other, they thought that documentary films is what you see on television when you're looking at the news. You see different things from war made in a news way. And then I understood that if that is 95 or 96% of the audience doesn't understand that we exist. So for me, that was, I would say, my turning point. And just to give you an imagination of this film, we can see the trailer. He thinks he's the best.
Vår familj bär ett socialt arv av våld och missbruk som jag vill bryta. Jag vill att alla dukar ska bli sams.
This film was seen by, I think it was almost 10,000 people that came to the cinema. So for me, that was a great success. And after that, the film was awarded Best Documentary, Prix Italia, Special Mention, Prix Europa, and 4 other Best Documentary that year. But I think I learned something. It was very important for me to, what would you say, to understand that I own my own film. We own our films. It's a bit up to us to not sit and wait for others to see us. I think it's very important that we understand that we have a lot of capacity. We are like the best ambassadors for our own films. And so to start with, for me at least, it has been very important to understand that I have the right to make whatever I want to with my own film. It's not up to anyone else, it's actually up to me. And when I came to this conclusion, everything became much more fun and more easy in a way. Because it's like if you are a believer and you take away the priest and go directly to God, maybe it's, was that a strange saying? But I mean, you can have direct contact with your own product in some way. And I don't have to obey for anything. I can just take my film and do whatever I want. And for me, that was like I was free. And when, as soon as I understood this, I could start to do things. So I thought it's very important that we think, why are we making those films we are making? Who do we want? Who is the audience? Why are we putting so much effort, and why are we so poor making this film? We must have a thought. And I think we all have different motivations for why we are doing our films. But I think it's very, very, what should I say, important to think of who is the audience and start to think very, very soon. So I would like to tell you this fairy tale. It all started when Isabella Rossellini talked to one of my directors that I have made 3 films together with, Stig Björkman. She met him at Berlin Film Festival, and she turned her head to him at a dinner, like a place like this, because she thought he was a very nice man, and she understood he had made some very good films before. And she asked him, would you like to make a film about mother? And Stig Björkman looked at her and understood that, I don't know if you know who she is, but her mother was Ingrid Bergman. Do you know Ingrid Bergman? You say, of course. That is very interesting, because in Sweden, when you asked, do you know who Ingrid Bergman is? A lot of people say, no, wait. It was something, I think it was a film. And when Stig called me and told me that Isabella Rossellini had asked him if we, that means I, would like to produce a film about Ingrid Bergman, what do you think I said? Yes, of course. But first I had to start thinking, who is Ingrid Bergman? What do I actually know about Ingrid Bergman? Then I thought, I know that she's a black and white photo. Could you please take? For me, this is Ingrid Bergman. She's black and white. She's a Hollywood star. She had made some films. Maybe she's Lauren Bacall. Maybe she's Greta Garbo. I really didn't remember who she was. And I started, when he called me, I started to ask people to make sure to say, do you know who Ingrid Bergman is? What she has done. And I realized quite soon that people that was below 40 years old, they knew her when I told them Casablanca. And when I told them Casablanca, they also remembered that that she had a scandal with Roberto Rossellini. So in Sweden, I would say she was famous for Casablanca and Roberto Rossellini. And when we started to do this, Isabella said, the year 2015, my mother will have an anniversary celebrating 100 years. And Isabella also had this feeling that her mother was running away from people's memories. So for her, she wanted her mother to continue, stay alive. And her mother was quite special because Ingrid Bergman, she was saving everything. And the children has never understood what are they going to do with all the photos, diaries, texts, still photos. It was thousands and thousands. So they gave them away to a university in United States. And they gave us the access to go to this university. So we did. And we found 5 diaries. She started to write a diary when she was 10 years old. The books were all in Swedish. And the children, she has 4 children, they didn't know Swedish. So they have never read what their mother said. And have you seen the film? It's called Ingrid Bergman in Her Own Words. I think... But before I show this clip, because we're going to, I'm going to talk to you how to reach the audience. We started to make our own research. As I told you, first we asked in many different ways. We tried to find out what was the relationship between the audience and Ingrid Bergman. And secondly, we started to rebuild Ingrid Bergman for the Swedish people. Actually, people are quite surprised. What happened the year 2015? Everything is Ingrid Bergman suddenly, but that's not true. It's actually us that planted everything. We called the post office and asked them if they could make a stamp remembering Ingrid Bergman. So suddenly, all the stamps, when we released the film, was with her face. She wrote a book in the 80s, and we called the bookshops and asked the bookshops, couldn't you print that book again and release it at the same time as we release our film? And the bookshop said, yeah, that was a good idea. And they gave back to us that we could, in all bookshops in Sweden, put the poster and the trailer. So the same summer, when we were going to release the film, Ingrid Bergman was in all bookshops all over Sweden. And in that way, we started, what would you say, the making of the audience and the interest. What I have learned is, because I thought we should keep things as a secret, and when it's ready, it's like surprise. But it isn't like that when you release films. You need to have a huge interest from the beginning if the audience, and then I mean normal people, not only the colleagues, if they are going to come and see the film, it's all over. I think we had at least 5,000 or 6,000 people seeing the film before. I mean, I was a bit nervous because that's twice as much as my normal audience, but 5,000-6,000 people saw it in forehand because then they could be the ambassadors. So we had to give them free tickets. And also, if you Google, you can see thousands and thousands and thousands of things about Ingrid Bergman, Roberto Rossellini, and everyone. So we decided we need to make another kind of film. We wanted to make a personal film. And what we found out was, in many, many pictures, I will show you, you can turn on. Yeah. You can see that we found a lot of pictures in the archive where she was holding a camera, a 8mm camera, a 9mm camera, a 16mm camera. Even when she was working, she had her own camera. This is Jeanne d'Arc. And she was all the time shooting, all the time. She was carrying this. So we were really, the first thing we did was trying to find as many pictures as possible when she was holding a camera. Because if she holds a camera, then you can understand, a wake-up question. It exists, of course, a film. So we were looking for the films she was shooting, and we found a lot. Actually, we found totally new material from when she was 19 years old, just 4 months before the release in Cannes, so we have to re-edit the whole movie. So we called the film Ingrid Bergman in Her Own Words. And that was actually our working title. I mean, it's a very bad title on the film. But that was our working title because I wanted from the beginning to be very focused. This is not only biopics about Ingrid Bergman. This is a film about Ingrid Bergman in her own words. Everything in this film is what Ingrid Bergman tells us. It's from her diaries, it's from her letters, it's from her own camera, it's from her own children that she created. Everything is Ingrid Bergman. So very early, we also made a poster with her holding a camera. This one, this is our selling poster. Ingrid Bergman in her own words. And this is a black and white photo from the beginning. But when I decided, I think this film has the potential to be a world success, I also decided 2 things. The first, we need to make a modern film. I want to make a film that attracts people that know Ingrid Bergman, but it should also attract people that doesn't know her. So that is very difficult. It's 2 different kind of audiences. So I wanted to make it personal. I wanted to be modern and not black and white. I wanted it in color. So this is actually our working poster with the working title. And it was important to hold it like this. In the end, everyone loved. I've made this myself together with it. We just made it at my office, and the distribution became very large. But Trust Nordics, the sales company, they didn't want to change the poster. And suddenly, Cannes Film Festival it came a lot of emails to me when I was sleeping at night. And suddenly I understood that there was a poster made with Ingrid Bergman presenting the whole Cannes Festival last year. So how did this happen? Am I a very lucky person? It was just Cannes calling me, asking, "Oh, we heard you made a film about Ingrid Bergman. Do you want us to make a big celebration and put her everywhere on the festival?" A lot of people in Sweden, at least, they think that is how things works. Suddenly, someone just call you. Of course not. Isabella Rossellini and I, together with Isabella's manager, 2 years before Cannes, we were sitting together, having a meeting. How can we make a celebration that will be in the whole world and make it sensational? So your mother, Ingrid Bergman, really will celebrate 100 years. How can we make it? And at that moment, a lot of TV stations they were really angry at me because they told me I was stupid and I was claiming too much when I wanted it to be a cinema theatrical film, because they said this is perfect for the TV stations. If you sell the film to all the TV stations, the 29th of August, we can all broadcast it at the same time in all TV stations. But Stig and I, the director, we really wanted to make a film where Ingrid Bergman returns to the white screen. I mean, that was her element. It was not TV, it was cinema. So I phoned Isabella Rossellini and told her, we want to say no to all the TV stations. We really want to do this. Can we make it together? Isabella started a theater play, a monologue that she wanted to present. She let a German bookstore make a fantastic book, a new book about her. And we decided maybe we can go to Cannes. Maybe we can be the poster. But we didn't think we could be the poster for the whole festival. We thought Cannes Classic, maybe if we worked hard. So actually for 1.5 years, her producer Olivier was lobbying quite hard. They had never had a female actress at the official Cannes poster before. So it was quite difficult. But what I want to say, I'm not here to try to tell you to do like me, but I think everything is made up. And it takes a long time, very, very long time, to become this kind of, it doesn't just happen. You have, like with everything in your lives, probably, at least in my and my friends, filmmakers' lives, we need to do it ourselves. No one will help you. But you need to be very innovative and very brave, and maybe have a kind of hybris, we say. Do you say hybris? That you really think you have the greatest thing in your hand and that you are going to make the best film. And that is a very hard feeling sometimes because you get nervous. I was very nervous. I hope people will like the film. But what happened was it was released in Cannes and it has been sold to over 54 territories. And it has been screened in more than 17 countries: Japan, Taiwan, Italy, United States, Canada, England. And in Sweden, it's the most successful documentary film during the 2000th century. That means we had almost 200,000 viewers in cinema. So in 3 years, we could say that we went from 539 persons to 200,000 persons. And I'm not the only one that have produced films with great success. What has happened in Sweden is that finally, it's a very hard work from all of us. But I think it's not only me, it's some other people as well. When you see they declare the documentary film is dead in cinema, then you get a bit pissed off and say, no, that can't be the truth. It's not the feeling we have inside. And today we have a totally different situation. The distributors, they hunt us really to ask us if they can produce our films. They take the films to the big salons, not this small in bad hours. They give us I would say that in Sweden now we have a very good climate for documentary films on cinema. And why is that important? It's not only important because we love to see a film on the cinema. It's important because that is the only way to get your money back. It's through the tickets. It's the only way. That's why it's such a monopoly situation, because they earn money, of course. Disney and Warner and everyone, they earn a lot of money. There is a lot of money in the film industry. I don't know why we have the feeling that we are losers. There is a lot of money. That's why they are fighting so hard to keep their rights. So we have to understand, this is my revolution at least, that there is money out there, but we have to find the best way of that they are coming back to us. And I'm not depressed at all. Ingrid Bergman is a very complex film. It's not a sellout. It's not a commercial film. It's a film about a woman that fights as a big struggle with herself, the problem that many people lives with today, to be a good mother, but also to be a good worker, that you love the work you are making as an artist. And that is a universal thing, I would say. Would you like to see a clip from the film? Or would you like to see the trailer? The trailer first, maybe, and a clip?
Jag är Ingrid. Det här är min historia.
I fell in love with a man that was so different from any other man that I'd ever known. In those days, it was a shock to leave a husband and a child and not deny the baby to be born. It takes courage to take all the makeup off and really show what you are. One word to define love, I would say charm.
The only thing that I think any of her children feel is we wish we had more of her.
I would like also to, if we have time, to show you a short clip. I could talk about the film itself very long if you want to. I think it's been so amazing, fantastic to work with a film like this. When you find this old material that you have to dig it, the archives and everything. But it was very expensive because we also made something, if you want your film to survive and be a classical, then you need to buy the rights. And that is hard to... I know a lot of people have problems with the outreach of their films because they didn't buy the rights. But again, we need to believe that we are making something that can exist forever. So actually, I had to buy the rights. I'm talking about 4 million Swedish crowns. That is 400,000 euro, only for the rights. But the film is free. It means it can live forever in all media in the future as well. Yeah, maybe I can stop if you want to, because I don't have a watch.
We see a clip and then stop?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that is really important before we look at the clip is Ingrid Bergman is dead. So the only thing we couldn't make her own voice was the reading from her diaries. So we had to decide who shall read her diaries and in what language. Everybody told us you need an English narrator. But for us, the feeling was, no, it can't be, because she was 10 years old, 11 years old. It's written in Swedish. Most of the diaries are written in Swedish. It should be very strange to translate it. It takes away some of the authentic feeling. But everyone told us it's impossible to sell a film abroad if it's not translated, the narration is not English. That is false. We decided to make it in Swedish, and that worked perfect. And we also decided it's important that we work with someone that is like Ingrid Bergman, a Swedish actress that also is in Hollywood and are making the kind of... because I think it's important in the documentary that you have some authentic work in it. So we decided to choose Alicia Vikander. And I don't know if you know who Alicia Vikander is, but she was awarded an Oscar this year. But when we started the work with the film, she was in the beginning of her international career, but today she is one of the most famous and wanted actresses in the world, like Ingrid Bergman. So she is reading on Swedish, and the material you see in the film is from Ingrid Bergman's camera. Sometimes she holds it, and sometimes she gives the camera to her husband or her friend or her children, and sometimes it's her. But I just wanted to show you 2-3 minutes clips so you can have the feeling of the film.
We had dogs, and
You can stop. We can stop. It was just to show you the style of the film, so you could see it is a lot of different kind of archives. Yeah.
And I think then we should, of course, encourage people to see the film. Is it available on VOD or other platforms? Or?
Yes. I think you can find it. And it was in Moscow, I remember, on the festival, so it should be a subtitle version somewhere. I don't have the control, actually, but it's streamed many different platforms. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for telling this fantastic fairy tale. But as you all heard, it also really included a lot of hard work, which I think sounds really amazing. And you also said that like you're really trying to keep, or you want to keep the film with yourself. It sounds like you have to really go against a very formalized structure within people's minds, like windows and strategies for festivals and holdbacks and all this stuff. How do you manage to go against these very formalized structures? Is it just a gut feeling you have, or is it using your experience from years in the business?
Yes, a lot of structures are not working our way. I think you have the feeling that you need to break a lot of laws all the time. For example, I found that I see the documentary colleagues like my family in a way. I spent so much time with everyone. But when I came with this film, they were just shouting at me and was a bit angry all the time. And trying, the sales agent, all of them wanted the film, but they were screaming like, you need to sell it to the televisions, otherwise you are stupid. And I had a feeling like in this production, I can't deal with my own documentary colleagues. So I actually went to the fiction side and started to work for the first time with another platform, and I wanted to see if that maybe could help me, and I think that was part of the success, that I didn't actually release the film and give it to, I don't want to offend anyone, but the feeling was they didn't understand the film. But so we went more, I mean, Cannes is not a documentary film festival, then New York Film Festival, London Film Festival. It was like we went to other places where people really appreciated that it was shown the way we had made it. So sometimes even your network can be wrong, but the next film I produce, my network is fantastic again. So sometimes I think we shall not only trust ourselves and our colleagues, sometimes we need to also look at people outside. For example, I look very much into how does other kind of art industry work? How does it look in the music industry? How does it look with an author? For example, every director has a feeling it's a human right to make my film, and sometimes my directors, at least, I don't know how it is with yours, but demand a lot. Like I say, but I didn't decide that you are going to make this film. I can't help that you are poor making the film. And then when you look at an author, if you go to the bookstores and look at how is it to be an author, for example, when it comes to distribution, if you write a bestseller, it's like an autostrada, it's like a motorway. It's a perfect distribution. If you make a film that will be a success, then everything is perfect. But for us, making the kind of films we normally do, maybe we need to find other way of finding new routes, so to say. So it's sometimes the system works fine if you have a success, but if you don't have, then I think you have to make them. And I don't think it's necessary to be too bitter, because we are in this industry because, as you said, not because we want to be rich. If that is the primary goal, then I think we should do something else. So I think it's important not to be bitter and angry and fight too much against each other. Have you this in Russia, that someone is talking in the microphone at the same time when they look at the film? It's like synskadad translations. You know, that someone says, a woman is walking, she is turning left, the sun is in her glasses. A very boring, monotone voice is destroying every picture, talking to the poor, not seeing people when they go to the cinema, because a lot of blind people like to go to the cinema as well. But they need to have this voice in the ear that all the time tells them what they are seeing. And then I understood we should do something. So we started together with some other institutions an app in the iPhone. We wanted to make a creative voice. Like if you are making a fiction, you have this was a young girl, so we chose an actor that also was a young girl, and we made our own creative voice, and we put it on a track. So if you go to the cinema, then we worked with a telephone company, and we were creating, so when you are blind and you go to the cinema, you can have the soundtrack in your own phone. It's an app, and then you bring your own headphones. You don't have to have anything in the cinema, and you just doink, and you can sit with your own headphones and see the film. And at that time, I mean, a film about a blind girl is not very hip, but an app and a mobile development, it's very hip and trendy. So actually, it helped us to get a greater audience coming to see this film. So you can in every film you are making, I believe you can try to find something. If you want to, I mean, of course you have to start to decide who is going to see this film. Why am I making this film? Where is the audience? What kind of audience do I want? Maybe you don't want an audience, you just want to be loved by your film colleagues and go to the festivals and be a festival star. That is also okay, but I mean, I think you have to start with this. Who is the audience? That's fun.
A final comment.
Я была в этом году на фестивале в Стокгольме.
I was at the festival in Stockholm, and I got an impression that Swedish viewers, Swedish audience pays attention to movies with political context. So impact is important, not how the movie is made, what's the artistic approach to making the film, but the topic, the theme. Maybe the films that are done by women, maybe films about the refugees. Is that true that the Swedish audience is very interested in the politically oriented films?
Yes. Some of them really are. I think a lot of us making films in Sweden are very interested in making films about topics and refugees or like being blind or, yeah, I think so. On the other side, I also think in Sweden that we now have a lot of people just interested in forma, art, and so I think it's you have both of them is growing, I would say. Yes, but I think we have an old tradition in Sweden that we want to educate the audience, and I think also that has been one of the problems. Because if you everything is about presentation. If you present a documentary film as you got a golden star on your breast because you have seen a documentary film on the cinema, bravo. It was a kind of guilt. You're a good person if you choose that film instead of another film when you go to the cinema. And everybody was like, yeah, should I see this film about rape, a blind? Oh, well, I haven't seen Helen Mirren. I take this one. But we have worked very hard to get away from, I would say, the doc marks, that I mean, that it's a film. I think it was important for us to say, it's a good film. It's just a good film, and now when we are talking, everybody are like proud when we say it. I have seen a documentary film. I'm not a better person because I saw it. I saw it because I wanted to see it because that was the best film on the repertoire. So something has really changed in the way we are looking at documentary films. But yes, we are very politically interested, I would say. And some of the audience, but not the big audience. That kind of films has at most 1,000 or 2,000 numbers looking at that film, I would say. The other films about other issues, they have more. Make a film about nature, or Toscana, or Provence, then you have a lot of more people coming than if you make a film about refugees.
And that also gives me a perfect bridge to tomorrow, where we will actually start with talking about Dog Lounge, initiative that started in Sweden 10 years ago. So more on the Swedish experience tomorrow morning and how that built into a large Nordic network. But thank you very much for closing the day, Stina, with this inspirational talk.
I have some, if someone wants to reach me, you can have.
And also thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you to the technicians for putting up with all our different formats, and a huge thank you to the interpreters who did a wonderful job. And then I hope to see you all tomorrow when we continue the discussions as well. Thank you.